Hey rockers, welcome back to the channel, man. It's great to have you guys here. I appreciate it. Before I get into the video tonight, I want to thank Asymmetrical Media, a cool fanzine out of Cobleskill, New York. They were cool enough to send me a copy of their new fanzine, their new issue, which is the issue number 18 for spring of 2025. And they were cool enough to review a copy of my new album, Dark Days Unfazed. And then I'm happy to say it was a good review, man. So thank you to Asymmetrical Anti-Media out of Cobleskill, New York. Jason Rogers, I doubt you're going to see this, but hey, I'm thanking you anyway, man. Anyone that does reviews of music, hit me up. My email's in the description area. Always happy to send stuff out for reviews. Tonight we're going back to the year 2003. Yep, it's a metal story, my friends. If you're a metalhead, hopefully you'll dig this, man. 2003, Chicago. Yeah, man, the Windy City hosting a 3-pack, a really killer triple bill featuring Iron Maiden, Dio, and Motorhead. Yeah, man. Lemmy and the boys, Dio and the boys, and Bruce Dickinson and the boys. It was killer at Tinley Park, Chicago at the Tweeter Center, August the 10th, 2003. It was the Iron Maiden Give Me Ed tour. What a clever name, man. I'd like to think that Steve Harris came up with that. Who knows? He's wrote most of their songs and I think started the band, right? So yeah, Steve Harris had to have come up with that clever title, man. It was great. We went up to Chicago with some friends, Nikki and James, and also Sister Tracy, all 4 of us. And we were running kind of late. We were worried about the time. It was like, man, we were in Peoria, Illinois, headed north about 2.5 hours. Couldn't wait to see Motorhead, who was opening the show. Dio was going on second. And, of course, the mighty Iron Maiden, Up the Irons. They were headlining. And when we got there, we were kind of mortified because Motorhead was already on stage, man. Yeah, Lemmy and the boys already on stage. We hurried up. They had a really, really crappy security situation going on. These guys were anal. I mean, you couldn't bring anything in, man. People were throwing stuff away, and I'm like, are you kidding me, man? So we get through the gate, get hassled. You know, I wear stuff like spikes and, you know, skull rings and blah, blah, blah. And they think everything's a weapon, which, well, they kind of are. But anyway, my buddy, James, who's a huge Motorhead fanatic, he's got Motorhead on his motorcycle, I think Motorhead tattoos. He's probably seen them 50 times, who knows. But shout out to James. He's one of the biggest Motorhead fanatics I've ever met. And I'm a huge Motorhead banger myself, but probably not as big a fan as James, man. You got to give it up, man. Truth is truth. And I try to tell the truth. You know what, man? When James went through the line, this sucks. He was wearing like a chain belt. And they said, nope, can't bring it in. And he was pissed because he knew right then and there that Motorhead was already on stage. And as the first band opening up for these other 2 acts, their set wasn't going to be real long, right? So James has to go back to his car, tells us to go ahead and check out the show. We all make our way up to our seats. We had killer seats, man. I can't say it was like 3rd row, but it sure does. In my memory, I remember it being 3rd, 4th, 5th row, like very close. I could see everything very close up. And I wear prescription glasses, man. And I don't think I even had to wear them that night. So, or that day. It was summertime in Chicago, outside, man. We got there late, of course. James goes back to the car. We get up there to catch Motorhead, maybe the last quarter of the show, which is kind of sucky. We missed a lot. But James had to go all the way back to the car, then all the way back to security, deal with them, then go all the way to his seat. So, unfortunately, I think he kind of missed most of the set, if not all of it, which is a bummer. Sorry, bro. But that happened. Very hot summer day. Super excited. Been a fan of Motorhead since maybe I saw them on the Ace of Spades tour, which was when they were in America for the very first time, opening for Ozzy Osbourne and the Blizzard of Oz. And that video is on this story. I got to meet Ozzy that day, and there was a lot of, well, substances involved that I'll just leave there. But if you can find that story about Blizzard of Oz and Motorhead, it's on this channel way down in the first month or 2 that I was doing the channel. Motorhead. Lemmy was in the band, of course, on bass and vocals, the mighty Phil Campbell on guitar, and Mickey D on the drums. Dio was promoting the Killing the Dragon album at the time, featuring the great Ronnie James Dio on vocals, Craig Goldie on guitar, Jimmy Bain on the bass, Simon Wright, legend, on the drums, and Scott Warren on the keyboards. They played a lot of stuff from Sabbath, you know, the Ronnie James Dio era. They did stuff from Rainbow. They did classic Dio stuff. And a couple songs from, you know, from the Killing the Dragon album. Iron Maiden was made up, of course, of the guys that are still in the band, and they have been for a long time, man. Bruce Dickinson on the vocals, Steve Harris on the bass, Dave Murray and Adrian Smith, and Janik Gers. God, please help me. I'm pronouncing that right? Janik Gers on the guitar. Yeah, it was crazy. Those guys, I had never seen Maiden with 3 guitar players. So when that dude came out, I wasn't aware at that time that he was in the band, although I think James might have told me, or maybe I did know, but I don't think I'd ever seen it in person. And let me tell you something. Iron Maiden is a mighty force to be reckoned with live, man. I've seen them so many times, like 9, and maybe 6 times on the Number of the Beast tour, maybe 3 times on the Peace of Mind tour, and then, you know, later. But it was great seeing all 3 bands playing together. Again, man, up the irons, man. This is old school metal bands all on one bill. I was super happy and cheesing out, singing along, you know, and I got Motorhead's actual set list, man. Now, you know, Motorhead's not one of those bands that gets into theatrics, man. They keep it simple. A wall of amps around the guys, and they just have a thunderous sound that's like no other. Of course, I'm preaching to the choir. You guys know damn well there ain't no other band like Motorhead. Long live Lemmy, man. Motorhead started out that set that we missed, the first part of, with We Are Motorhead. Then they did No Class, Shoot You in the Back from the great Ace of Spades album. Love that tune. Then they did Metropolis. Love that one a lot. Dr. Rock. And then I think they did Ramones, Ramones. Yeah, man. That great song they did that in tribute to one of the greatest bands of all time, the Ramones. I think we kind of got there around this time. They did Sacrifice. There was an amazing solo by Mickey D. Of course, killer drummer. Killed by Death, which I love. Another one that's a sing-along, and all the fans were chanting along. Killed by Death. Killed by Death. What a great one, man. From the 80s, I believe, right? Ace of Spades, title track from that one. It was really cool to hear those guys do that. I remember being happy that I was there to catch that, you know. One of the all-time best Motorhead songs of all time. And I gotta say, man, if I have to put my favorite Motorhead albums on a list of the 2 best ever for me, it would be Ace of Spades and the Iron Fist album. But then there's Overkill and on and on. I even love the first Motorhead album, On Parole and all that stuff. Love it all. Anyway, I digress. So after Killed by Death, Ace of Spades, last song of the set, Overkill. Yeah, man, title track to that great album. What a classic, man. It was great to see Lemmy up there with this big red bass guitar. He's got his microphone down like this, you know, and he's singing up into it. What a cool guy, man. What a trademark just image. Just to see Lemmy up there like that is iconic. Just iconic. The band was thunderous, very loud, and there was very little small talk, you know. I just remember Lemmy saying at one point, you know, we're Motorhead, of course. Thanks for being here. We play rock and roll. Yeah, long live Lemmy, man. Next up on the bill, the great Ronnie James Dio. Man, I didn't know what to expect. Will this guy sound like he does on records, or will his voice be a little weaker live? What an idiot for even second-guessing Ronnie James Dio. He killed it, man. He was so good. The band was just stellar, of course, and the guy was super theatrical and just like a man possessed. Very short guy with so much energy. I was like, this guy is amazing. And we were so close. We could see him, and he was like really getting into it. And his voice was impeccable. And I can guarantee you one thing. There were no backing tracks happening or nothing like that, man. Killing the Dragon was the first song that Dio came out doing. Ah, what a great song. What a great song title, right? The Last in Line, very popular amongst the Dio fans, was next. Again, Craig Goldie on guitar, just shredding. Ronnie James Dio up there doing all his things, you know, that he does, all his moves. They did Stargazer. and then Stand Up and Shout. And of course, everybody was doing the whole devil horns thing, and, you know, doing, showing a lot of love for Ronnie James Dio. That was a really rabid crowd in Chicago. I always say the Midwest has some of the best rock and roll crowds on earth, because the people on the East Coast and the West Coast, like LA and New York, respectively, of course, because I love those places. But the audiences are a little jaded, man. They have it too good for too many years, right? So much rock and roll that you get a little jaded. But in the Midwest, it's mostly a bunch of churches and bars and strip clubs, and it's just kind of like, bring on the rock and roll. We need some goddamn entertainment. And so after Stand Up and Shout, drum solo, good stuff. I gotta admit, if I'm going to hear a solo, I prefer to hear bass or guitar, but I do love drum solos. My favorite drummer was Keith Moon. It was a good solo. Rock and Roll was the next song. Great one, right? By Dio, but check it out. Or was that Rainbow? That was a Rainbow song, Rock and Roll, I believe. Yeah. And then they did The Mob Rules from the Black Sabbath title album. Man, I love that record. That was really a treat because I didn't know if he'd do any Sabbath stuff, man, but The Mob Rules was killer. Then they did Dream Evil. Another great genius title, Dream Evil. Wow. Guitar solo next. Good stuff from Mr. Craig Goldie. I thought I made a note to say something about Craig Goldie, but I guess I didn't. That was great, watching Mr. Goldie do his thing. He's a legend in his own right, of course. But next up was a song that the crowd really got into. I remember singing along like it was yesterday, man. And I'm talking Rainbow in the Dark, because that one got so much radio airplay, you know. It's the one that you can still hear today when you're driving down the highway with FM radio here in America. And you can hear Rainbow in the Dark on the radio quite often. And of course, what do you do when that happens? You turn it the hell up and you sing along to Ronnie James Dio. Next up, a tune I was hoping to hear. Title track from the great Holy Diver album. When I first got the Holy Diver album, man, I was a crazy teenager and I just played that thing to death. I want to say I had it on cassette tape, perhaps. Yeah, I don't remember having it on vinyl. But I used to play that thing a lot. I was a big fan of Dio and pretty much always have been, man. The last song of the set, however, my friends, is the epitome, the icing on the cake, the best part of my story here. Guess what it was? It was Heaven and Hell. And those of you that know that song from Black Sabbath featuring Dio on the vocals know that is one of the coolest damn songs ever recorded. I mean, that one's just vibey, man. It's really vibey and dark, and the lyrics are incredible. And the dynamics of the music, it gets scary. And Ronnie was just really in the spotlight, really killing it on vocals, just bringing it to town, man. And it sounded just like the album, if not better. Just killer. Heaven and Hell. Gotta say, I never got to see Dio with Sabbath, and that sucks. I've seen Ozzy with Sabbath, and I've seen Sabbath with Ian Gillan. And you can find that story on this channel as well about the Born Again tour. And that's the night I accidentally caught Quiet Riot guitar player Carlos Cavazo in a compromising situation with a female in a truck. That's another story, but it's on this video channel. Yeah, Quiet Riot, Black Sabbath, 1983, I think, Rockford, Illinois. Anyway, into my story, and finishing up with the great Iron Maiden on stage. Couldn't wait, man. Bruce Dickinson was in his short hair phase, of course. The long hair was gone at this point. But he came out with his white sweatbands on his arms, his cut-off denim jeans vest, and the band, of course, all decked out in all their gear, looking great as always. All of them have long hair. I think, you know, I'm one of those guys that'll never cut my freaking hair. I've pretty much always been a long hair, except for part of the 80s when I had mohawks and stuff. But, hey, man, I love mohawks, too. But I'm never cutting my hair. So anyway, enough of that crap. Number of the Beast, man. The first thing you heard was Vincent Price's legendary voice, spookily and eerily coming out of the speakers. How's it go, man? Reckon the number of the beast, for it is a human number. Its number is 666. Yeah, I don't remember the whole thing by heart because, well, the old memory sucks. We heard that, and then the band came out, and all of a sudden, it was just like these guys were like the Energizer Bunnies on steroids. They all came rushing out like they were just supercharged. Bruce Dickinson immediately doing those vocals that start out in Number of the Beast to where it eventually builds up and he does that killer scream. That was killer. That was killer. They had these great risers that were going all the way around all of the amps and right behind the drums. And of course, Bruce Dickinson, one of the best front men in metal, would just take advantage of that. Of course, the guy's super physically fit, still is, flies airplanes. He was great to watch on stage, very engaging of the audience. After Number of the Beast, they did The Trooper. And Bruce came out on stage with this huge, what do you call it, Union Jack flag that he was waving in the audience. And it was just a great photo op, man. That was a great moment to have happen. The Trooper, great song. Then they did Die With Your Boots On. And that was a sing-along. People were singing along, chanting that one, you know, die, die with your boots on if you're gonna die. And then they did Revelation, which is a great one from the Number of the Beast album, Revelations, I believe. Really love that, man. And I think I made a note here, man. Oh, yeah. During that song, the guitar players, all three of them, were all lined up on stage together playing like all these triple harmonies. It was a real treat for the fans, and these guys were just badass. They never make a mistake. They're completely on tune. Iron Maiden is one of the most rehearsed, professional, and killer rock and roll bands you can ever see live. That is a fact, Jack. After Revelations, of course, I noticed before they went into Hallowed Be Thy Name, there was a big iron Eddie, a big huge iron Eddie that was standing kind of behind the drums. That was badass. And then I was waiting, when will the real Eddie appear? Will Eddie come walking out? What's he going to look like? I've seen different versions of Eddie. Hallowed Be Thy Name is a really scary tune. I love it. It's one of my very favorite Bruce Dickinson era tunes. I made another note, but I can never read my own handwriting. The band was just, during that song, it's almost like a spooky vibe, like almost like a possession takes over Bruce Dickinson, kind of like Dio. These guys get in these weird states of mind and have these lyrics and this music and this energy is created that's just otherworldly. You know what I'm saying? I know you do. After Hallowed Be Thy Name, they did Wildest Dreams. Then they went into The Wicker Man, and of course, my question was answered. Eddie came out, man. It was a big Wicker Man kind of looking Eddie that was walking around on stage, and that was super badass. I was wondering, because Eddie, a big integral part of the Iron Maiden brand. The band was killing it. Nico McBrain up there beating the drums. Every one of those guys just has my respect, especially the great Steve Harris, the star of the show, kinda. He started the band, he writes the songs, and there's not many bass players like Steve Harris, man. The Klansmen was up next, and then they went into The Clairvoyant. Love that tune. Fear of the Dark was up next, and then, my friends, there was an inflatable Eddie that was all of a sudden on stage. And that popped up, and that was a great visual. The guys had a great light show going on. They spared no expense with keeping you entertained. That's for damn sure. Mr. Dickinson likes to get the audience singing back and forth with him, and it's always a blast to see the great Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden was the last song, by the way, and that's the title track to the very first Iron Maiden song that was originally sung and by the late, great Paul Di'Anno. I gotta tell you something. My favorite Iron Maiden is the very first two Iron Maiden albums with Di'Anno, and also the Made in Japan EP. Love that stuff, man. But I am equally a fan, of course, of great, awesome Bruce Dickinson. So there you go. But I love Paul Di'Anno so much, man, and just love that dude. The band left the stage. Everyone knew they were going to come back out, and being a Midwest crowd, it was a great, loud, receptive audience, a very respectable, loud roar. And I don't know how long they were off stage. But when they came back, they did two tunes to keep us entertained, man. They did 2 Minutes to Midnight. And that was a great sing-along. And I'm sure that they planned things like that out. Let's leave them with this big sing-along and then leave them with the song that everybody expected. Run to the Hills. Yep. Remember that video on MTV, man, when that came out? I used to love that, and I couldn't wait for the Iron Maiden video to come on, You'd have to wade through a flock of seagulls and, like, the waitresses and stuff. But then, inevitably, you'd get, like, your Judas Priest or your Kraut, punk rock. You get your metal, and then you'd get your great Iron Maiden with that cool Run to the Hills video. Hey, man, after the show, you know what we did? We got back in the car and we drove home. That's about it, man. And I'm sure we smoked a ton of ganja and, who knows. But I do know one thing. I would appreciate it if you would subscribe, to this channel. It would help an old rocker out. You can also give it a like right down there, a thumbs up. Leave a comment if you'd be so kind. And guess what, man? I appreciate you guys from the bottom of my black little heart. Adios, and I'll come back soon. I've got some really trippy stories planned, man. Some real curveballs coming at you soon, guys. Right here at Bloody F Mess Official. Up the irons.